1152. My grandfather built a dining table in 1961. That table is still in use today. No wobble, no cracks. The wood hasn't warped, hasn't split, hasn't rotted. Just solid, like the day he finished it. Now I want you to think about the last piece of furniture you bought, or built. How long did it last before something started going wrong? Because here's what nobody in the woodworking world talks about openly. The reason old furniture lasted generations and modern furniture barely lasts a decade has nothing to do with the type of wood. It has nothing to do with the tools. It's one step, one specific thing that craftsmen did before they even touched a saw. A preparation technique that's been around for over 200 years. And almost nobody uses it anymore. Not because it stopped working, because it became inconvenient for factories to produce at scale. I'm going to show you exactly what it is and how to do it yourself right now. Before I get into the technique, I need to explain something. Because once you understand why wood fails, the fix makes complete sense. Wood is not a dead material. Even after it's been cut, dried, and milled, it's still reacting to humidity, to temperature, to the air around it. When it absorbs moisture, it expands. When it dries out, it contracts. Do that enough times and the wood starts to fight itself. That's where cracks come from. That's where warping comes from. That's where joints start to fail. Now, modern furniture companies know this. Their solution is to coat the wood. Polyurethane, lacquer, thick layers of finish that sit on top of the wood like a plastic shell. And it works for a while. But here's the problem with that approach. The wood underneath is still moving. And eventually that shell cracks. Water gets in, the wood swells, the finish peels, and the piece starts falling apart from the inside out. The old craftsmen didn't coat the wood. They conditioned it. There's a big difference. The technique is called oil penetration. Conditioning. And the version I'm going to show you is based on what craftsmen across Europe were doing in the 1700s and 1800s to build furniture that survived for centuries. The idea is simple. Instead of sealing the surface shut, you feed the wood from the inside. You're not blocking moisture. You're stabilizing the wood's response to it. Here's how it works in practice. Step 1. You start with clean, dry, unfinished wood. Before any staining, before any top coat, the wood needs to be completely dry and acclimated to your environment. If you're working with lumber from a yard, let it sit in your shop for at least a week. 2 is better. You want it adjusted to your space before you do anything to it. Step 2, the mixture. You're going to use boiled linseed oil, which you can find at any hardware store, mixed with pure gum turpentine. Equal parts, 50-50. The turpentine thins the oil just enough to carry it deep into the wood fiber instead of just sitting on the surface. Together, they also bring natural resistance to pests, mold, and moisture, which is exactly why this combination was used for centuries before synthetic finishes even existed. Step 3, application. And this is where most people rush it. Apply the mixture with a cotton rag or a natural bristle brush. Work it into the grain slowly. You're not painting it on, you're working it in. Let it sit for 20 to 30 minutes, then wipe off every bit of excess on the surface. This part is important. Any oil left sitting on top will get tacky, attract dust, and create a mess that's hard to fix. Step 4. Repeat. The first coat, the wood will drink it up fast. Wait 24 hours. Apply again. By the 3rd or 4th coat, over the course of about a week, the wood starts to look different. Richer, deeper, like it's lit from the inside, and more importantly, it's now stable. The wood fibers are saturated. The expansion and contraction in response to humidity is dramatically reduced. At this point, you can leave it as is for a natural matte finish, which looks incredible on walnut, oak, and cherry, or apply a thin coat of hard wax on top for added surface protection. But the foundation, the part that makes the piece last, is already done. That's what your grandfather's furniture had. That's what the furniture sitting in most living rooms today doesn't. There's something that happens when you build a piece of furniture the right way. Not just the right joinery, not just the right wood species, but the right foundation. You stop thinking about it as a project. You start thinking about it as something that's going to outlive you. I know that sounds like a lot, but that's exactly what that dining table from 1961 is. My grandfather is gone. The table is still there. Every Sunday, someone is still sitting around it. That's what woodworking used to mean. And it still can. The technique I just showed you won't cost you much. Boiled linseed oil is cheap. Turpentine is cheap. Time is the main ingredient. But what it gives your work is permanence. And once you feel the difference, once you run your hand across a piece you've conditioned this way, you'll never go back to spraying lacquer out of a can. Now, if you're the kind of person who actually wants to build things that last, the conditioning technique is one piece of it. But a lot of the frustration people run into in woodworking comes from something else entirely. It comes from starting a project with a plan that falls apart halfway through. Missing measurements, steps that skip the hard part, materials lists that are just wrong. I've been there. Most woodworkers have. A while back, I came across a plan library that actually changed how I approach projects. Over 16,000 plans. And what stood out to me wasn't the number. It was that every single plan had been physically built before it was published, not drawn, built, which means the mistakes get caught before they become your problem. I'm not saying it's for everyone. But if you've ever abandoned a project because the plan stopped making sense 2 steps in, it might be worth taking a look. I'll leave the link in the comments. No pressure, just worth knowing it exists. Build something that lasts. I'll see you in the next one.